Around the world, the Escazú Agreement has proven beneficial, paving the way and empowering citizens to take an active role in environmental preservation. And here at home, while that agreement was signed last year, a further enhancement to protecting the environment taking place today at the British Colonial. Now, the minister responsible for environment and natural resources, the Honorable Zane Lightbourne, shares a bit more about what happened.
Yeah, so today was a very important step in environmental justice and showing our stakeholders and social partners, our citizens, that we are serious about our environment, about conservation, about climate change, because we would have hosted the fourth COP for the Escazú Agreement. And that particular agreement speaks to giving access to all stakeholders and information sharing, and also access to justice, whether it's through court systems or whatever other forms of justice, and just a form of transparency for all stakeholders, particularly environmentalists who raise concerns about when there are agreements with big projects, about persons who would embark on any activity that impacts the environment, or just citizens who would have discovered something that they wanted to bring to light, and they expect that we as a government continue to be honest, transparent, and also active and proactive in causing for our environment to be conserved for our future.
Now, I know there are a number of local organizations a part of this advancement as well, the Nature Conservancy and others. Again, as we've now moved forward and taken a step forward, for you, what's the most important accomplishment in this?
Well, the fact that we can get together and we have the confidence of the Bahamian people to have their involvement, to show that we are a transparent government. We have also signed a coral pledge today with the Nature Conservancy. That is very impactful for us because we know our coral reefs are very important in preserving our environment, especially protection against storms. We have seen some of the worst catastrophic storms in history, and we know what it is to go through it. So we are showing our support not only for the environment, but that we are leading the way and participating in the region in conservation and also environmental justice. It is an honor and a responsibility to appear before you today as we gather for this important coral reef pledge signing ceremony. Today, it is not simply about signatures on a paper. It is about a shared commitment to protect one of our nation's most valuable natural treasures, our coral reefs. The Bahamas is home to 1/3 of the Caribbean's coral reefs, and we are home to the world's third largest barrier reefs located near Andros. Coral reefs, by definition, are the foundation of our very existence. Healthy corals are critical to our fisheries sector, tourism sector, and they continue to be our first line of defense in times of natural disaster. With the understanding that these critical ecosystems are under extreme stress due to climate change, unregulated human activity, and diseases, we are very proud today to have this opportunity to seal the deal on the commitment to take urgent action to protect the world's most climate resilient reefs, increase coral reef conservation, and mobilize funding and build capacity among stakeholders. The Department of Environmental Planning and Protection has issued 5 research permits in the last year to Bahamian and international researchers. This research is expected to drive innovation and support science-based policy decision-making. The Bahamas has specifically committed, or is specifically committed, to the drafting and implementation of the National Coral Reef Conservation Plan and exploring options for reef insurance. We are putting our money where our resources are. By each country taking specific actions across all jurisdictions, the impact is far-reaching and global. Thank you to the drafters of the pledge that we have here today, the international supporters, and our local supporters, the Nature Conservancy. I thank you.
Moving forward, what commitment can we say is being made to the general public in terms of notifications and other elements to keep them abreast of how the environment is transforming and what is being shared with them as far as having more information to protect?
Well, I can let both parties, Dr. Neely and the Nature Conservancy, speak of that. But at the Ministry of Environment, we have built a communications unit most recently, and we have employed some young, very enthusiastic persons in the field of public communications. And so we see through this effort that the public is being made more aware of our roles in the environment, and specific roles, particularly with involvement in agreements and how it affects the public, how we want them to interact with us, and how we depend on them to cause us to be more efficient in our duties as stakeholders in this space. So I can let also any one of the parties take. So stakeholder engagements are extremely important to us, actually as part of our legislation in some cases, and we do engage and give adequate notice to the public and call for their interventions through stakeholder engagements, and as town hall meetings where we can, and also other special call meetings where they can ask questions and receive answers, and also give suggestions where necessary.
The SCAZU agreement, the Bahamas is now a signatory. We've ratified the agreement and everything. Prior to that, I think that we are aware of the 2019 legislation that created the Environmental Department, the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection. Following that, we created some regulations that speak to the environmental impact assessment process. And in that process, we specifically outline a public consultation process that the department has followed to the law, letter to the law, since its inception in 2020. So the EIA regulations speak to the 14-day period prior to any public consultation. It speaks to the documents being in the public domain and available for people to review them and ask their questions. It also speaks to the 21 business day period post a public consultation event where people are able to continue to send in their questions or concerns. And the DEPP is required to respond or have a developer to respond to any questions or concerns that were raised. And the environmental documents are amended as necessary based on any comments that we would have received. So as the director, I can say that this process has been followed under my directorship and under the ministry since 2020.
Good afternoon. I'm Shanique Smith, and Shanique is Shenique. I'm the Deputy Director and Conservation Lead for the Nature Conservancy Caribbeans Division. And I just want to speak to the Coral Reef Pledge that the Minister is signing today. At the 3rd UN Conference held in Nice, France in June of 2025, 11 governments and 22 partners joined together to launch the first global pledge to protect climate-resilient coral reefs. The Nature Conservancy was one of those 22 partners. Coral reefs are vital strongholds for biodiversity, food, coastal protection, and this coalition is seeking to support governments in the commitments of this pledge. What are governments committing to when they sign this pledge? Governments commit to protecting reefs using the best available science. They agree to integrate climate-resilient reefs into national biodiversity and climate action plans. They're agreeing to reduce local threats such as overfishing, pollution, unsustainable development. They're also agreeing to work with other governments and the civil society, corporations, and others to mobilize new funding and resources to support coral reefs, their protection, and reducing threats. They're also agreeing to track these commitments and report on progress so that we're following through on the commitments and not just, making more and more new commitments. And certainly, most importantly as well, they're ensuring the solutions are equitable, inclusive, and grounded in local stewardship. So this is where we would want to bring in local communities and the benefits that this brings to them, and making sure that their voices are heard as we think about what can be done to support coral reefs in the region. The Nature Conservancy is happy to be here today to work along with the ministry and the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection in achieving its goals and its visions. Part of that is supporting the government, as the minister said just now, with the development of a national coral conservation plan. We're also working on supporting what we call reef positive businesses, which are small businesses and communities around the Bahamas that has a model that's either seeking to protect a reef or some natural resource or reduce a threat? How can we support community members who have a vision for not only economic development, but sustainable economic development and boosting those initiatives in our communities? So this is just some of the ways we're here working along with government and supporting them in their efforts. And I will pass it on to our director here in the Bahamas to add to that.
Marcia Musgrove, Director for the Nature Conservancy's Northern Caribbean Program, which covers our work in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands. So the Nature Conservancy's Northern Caribbean program, based here in the Bahamas, we are pleased to continue to lend technical assistance to the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection and the Ministry of Environment to support development of that National Coral Conservation Plan. So the Nature Conservancy has been working with the staff at that department to create climate refugia maps for the Bahamas. And what that means is identifying the coral reefs that seem to be doing the best in the face of warming oceans, that are surviving, so that we can identify those reefs for additional focus on protection. We will also be supporting multi-tiered stakeholder consultation. So that's not only consultation with experts in the field, but also ensuring that community stakeholders who are utilizing these reefs for their livelihoods are part of that conversation to co-create that National Coral Conservation Plan. So the idea of moving from just consultation to co-creation of national plans and policies that impact communities at the end of the day. We are also going to be working with the department on implementing a program that we have in partnership with the Global Fund for Coral Reefs, the Impact Funding for Bahama Reefs program, where we are working with the Small Business Development Center as well to provide support to reef positive business solutions, so that three-tiered approach of supporting the environment, but also supporting coastal resilience and supporting livelihoods. In addition, we are also working with partners at the Bahamas Coral Innovation Hub in South Eleuthera, to generate more research and data that is needed to support decision-making and planning at the national level.